Man of dust, it's a matter of trust. It's Rhyme and Reason 669.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why you're...
Hey there, Tony here, and I hope today finds you in a good mood and got all your chores done. You've taken care of everything. You've cleaned up your house. You've dusted the shelves. And speaking of dust, little segue right there. Speaking of dust, you heard me at the beginning talk about the man of dust. It's a matter of trust. And I'm going to tell a little story and kind of explain what I'm talking about here, because a few years ago, I personally felt like a man of dust. And when I say a few years ago, it actually happened about 3 years ago when this happened. It happened when it happened, and boy, sounds like I just got my new mouth and I can't do a thing with it. Anyway, I was doing some handyman work in addition to my ad writing and copywriting and website building business, and I was getting established in a new city after living in another city for over 20 years, decades. And, the client connections here didn't materialize fast enough for me to rely on what I'd been doing for a long time. So being the handy kind of guy, I booked some residential appointments to fix stuff. And, pretty good at that, and got hired and, got a lot of work. But unfortunately, like I said, I became that man of dust, the settled dust in houses where owners neglected to clean often enough, if at all. You'd be amazed how prevalent that is. And then there was sawdust from woodworking projects. That's easy for me to say, right? But worst of all was some sheetrock dust, a lot of sheetrock dust. And I believe the sheetrock dust, in addition to exposure to mold in those houses that I mentioned just before, I think that dust proved to be my arch enemy as far as my overall health. In January of 2018, I woke up one morning with what I thought was a head cold, but a couple of weeks passed and my head cold was still there, so that's not like me at all, because I've always had a great immune system, and most illnesses in my life never lasted long, but I kept getting up and going to work and going back to those houses filled with dust and back to the woodworking and sheetrocking projects, and that head cold, I'll put that in quotations, that head cold went from weeks to months. And I finally had to break down and admit there was something more than a cold that had a hold on me. And Elgeline, my beautiful mate, said if I didn't go to the doctor and find out what was going on, she's going to have to put me out of her misery. But through steroid prescriptions and rescue inhalers, I was able to sort of control the breathing issues, but I could tell the root cause wasn't being addressed. And I eventually went through a sinus surgery, which I've talked about here on the podcast. And the ENT guy had to move things around and open sinus areas. Then I had to see a pulmonary specialist because the sinus surgery didn't open my lungs. And the pulmonary guy got me on some strong steroids, more of those, and it helped clear my lungs a lot more. But my breathing issues still persist, and this is over 3 years later. Even though they're on a much better level, at least I can sleep at night now through a regular amount of hours most of the time. Before it was just, the whistling and wheezing was keeping me up. So I'm still hopeful there's a better solution in the near future, but I didn't share all that with you so that I could throw a pity party and have you come and bring me stuff. No, that's not what it's all about. I shared the story because it reminded me of how Paul said a human is a man of dust, and I found it ironic how we're essentially made of dust, but we don't tolerate dust very well. And that connects to how there won't be any of that dust in heaven, by the way, not the normal settled dust that you have to clean off your furniture, and none of that dust from all of us dusty humans either, because dust is just synonymous with corruption, and that dust is not going to be tolerated in heaven. And like Paul said, this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible has put on incorruption, and this mortal has put on immortality, then shall it be brought to pass, the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Wow, I think that's pretty cool. We're not going to be men of dust or women of dust forever. We're going to be glorified. Can I get a glorified amen? And that's why I consider myself highly blessed, even during the past 3 years of dealing with dusty lungs and sinuses, because that dust only corrupted my physical health. It didn't corrupt my heart, because that was permanently healed when I trusted Jesus to save me. So, yep, that's right. I turned a handyman story into a heart healing story. But, that's how it goes when you sprinkle the dust with living water. And that does it for this episode of Rhyme and Reason. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me. It truly does that you would take time out of your day and let me speak into your ears. Thank you so much for that. Tell others about it, and let's see if we can build this up a little bit on iTunes, because they give me a little bit of love. They're giving me a little bit more. Thanks to you guys for tuning in and listening. That shows up in the analytics, so to speak. And I'm found in a lot of other places, too. Matter of fact, if you go to TonyFunderburk.com/Rhyme and Reason Podcast, or just look for the link at the top there that says podcast. I think that's what it says, Rhyme and Reason Podcast or podcast. Anyway, click on it, and there's all kinds of ways that you can listen to this show. It doesn't have to be just iTunes. But on iTunes, you can leave a review. And if you haven't done that already, I would certainly appreciate a 20-star review, even though it only goes up to 5 there. But, hey, multiply. And thank you so much again. I'm going to quit rambling and tune out for now. This is Tony from TonyFunderburk.com, where the merch tab is ever present to show you the way to that T-shirt that says, life has rhyme and reason because God made you.
There's a rhyme and